on? Yes. So I can start by saying that this is really daunting. So I need to speak to whoever gave me a slot just after the two founders of the company. So bear with me while I'm nervous. But I got Celine on stage with me for moral support, one, and also to give some insights on customer success at Showpad. So today we're going to talk about leveraging your Showpad investments, what it is. Before we start, how many are new to Showpad? So meaning you're still in onboarding or implementing or thinking about Showpad and so on? Okay. This is not for you, you can go out. No. Say you'll learn a thing or two as well. So who's a seasoned Showpad professional? It should be all of the other people. Okay. And then who's shy and doesn't want to raise his hand? You are? Okay, cool. So, who are we? Celine, Catherine gave a good intro. Thanks for that. I think that will hold me as well. But I'll talk about the chickens later, and I'll actually reveal a secret during this talk, so keep seated. So, in order to talk about leveraging your Showpad investments, we need to look at what you've actually done before. So for the seasoned Showpad professionals, we can actually have a trip down memory lane. So this is Ghent, a map of Ghent in 1572. I can see the bottom right-hand side, the Showpad HQ is being built. So this is quite new. So we'll have a look at the past, what you've done, what are some of the steps that you've taken, and how can you then leverage those steps and do more things and increase the impact of Showpad. So let's have a look. So you all know this one small step for man, big step for mankind. So let's see, what are like the elements that you've already done. So if you're live with Showpad, let's have a look what you've done. One, you've centralized all the content, or you're still trying to. But at least you've got content centralized, you've got the sales team hooked on the content and so on. Again, this is not a small feat. Talking to a lot of customers, this is a big hurdle that they need to take in order to actually work with Showpad. So if you've done this, awesome. Second one, you've actually built a structure. So you heard Louis talking about the structure, how difficult that is. Also getting a structure right, and we have sessions in the afternoon on how to build the most impactful structures, but having a really good structure helps your salespeople want to find the content, but then also have that conversation with the customer. So ultimately, you made it really easy for the salespeople to find the content, meaning that they love the tool. Show of hands, who has salespeople that love you personally because you've deployed Showpad? There we go. Awesome. We'll not go into details, but I actually know of customers that the marketing team won sales awards on the sales kickoff just by implementing Showpad. So really impressive stuff. So what you've actually done is you've initiated the sales and marketing alignment. So you've heard PJ talk about that, you heard Louis talk about it as well. So you're I'd say a big piece of that drive to align that as well. So last one, or second to last one, is that you've also played a key role in digital transformation. It's a big word and it's everywhere and everybody's doing it and everybody has ideas around it. But if you look at field sales, it's often left on the side. It's all online and we need to do stuff online. But as you've seen PJ talk about what's happening with digitalization as well. So you're a big part with a big impact on that piece. And then, last but not least, you've mastered Showpad. So there's something really cool to put on a resume. So that'll help you grow as well. So it's a big tool, and obviously I'm biased, and I believe in the growth and the future of Showpad, but it's really important. So what I want to say with this is that all of these small steps already have a big impact. We'll talk about the next thing. What I would like to do is, for all the admins that actually work with Showpad day to day, and I know there's Showpad people in the room as well, I'd like to give all of you a big round of applause because you're the heart and the blood of Showpad. So give yourself a round of applause. So you can see small steps, already big impact, but we will go further. So the question is, are you done? No, you're here, so you're not done. So that's why you're here. So the question you ask, or you can ask me, do we need to do more? I have a simple answer. That's the answer. Do more, obviously. Yeah, Fred, thanks. Great session, great presentation. I'll take that and I'll go back to my day job and I'll actually implement everything you talked about. Okay, cool. Big question is how? How can we actually leverage what we've already done? Because you'll probably need budget, you need approval by someone to actually do more with Showpad. So how do we do that? What do we need to, or who do we need to convince? How do we convince them? So I'm going to tell a little story on how you can do that. This is the answer. Who has kids? They're all on the left side of the room. Interesting. Need to take a note on that. So, have you ever noticed that raising kids is a lot like doing business? I can hear the giggles. So it's true. So I want to talk about these two. So, secret, he's actually the reason why the chickens have the same name. He's the reason, my oldest boy, Jasper. So, when do kids get ice cream? All the time. You just broke my presentation. Thanks for that. Any guesses? When they're good? Yep, awesome. Anyone else? Maybe when they do chores, when they're quite small. That might not be work. When they finish their plate, for example. So we went on holiday to Italy, and I taught them the word gelato, which is ice cream in Italian. That's the only word they actually remember from the trip. So they get an ice cream when they finish their plate. So 4 easy steps to get them to eat ice cream, basically, or them to want ice cream. First step, you give them some food. Easy. That's parenting. They eat it, or they don't. Then you check their plate, if it's empty. And if they finish the plate, they get ice cream. 4 steps, easy. Parenting is quite easy. But how does that relate to Showpad? How does that help you today? I don't know if there's ice cream today, but I'll check. 4 steps, and I'll actually use that to talk about Showpad and how Showpad can, how you can increase the impact of Showpad. But what the essence is here, first, take what you have, prove that you can actually handle it, and then you'll get more. Same with Showpad. Prove that with what you've already done, prove the impact to the organization, and they'll give you a mandate to do more. So let's see how that goes with Showpad. 4-step process. First one, plan. So if you already launched Showpad, this is what you've done. Plan. So we're not going to talk too much about that. Second step, once you actually know what you're trying to do, you implement. So for people still deciding on Showpad, this is what you actually have to go through. Then probably the most important part, which Celine will cover, is monitor. Sometimes forgotten, but this is where you actually prove the impact of Showpad. Celine will go into detail. And then last part, which I'll cover, is optimize. So once you actually really put the value on the table of Showpad and you've proven it over and over again, how can you optimize? So I'll talk about a small framework on how we can actually think about it. In terms of Showpad, this is where customer success lives. You probably all talk to members of the team. So we have customer solutions doing the technical bits. Then we have customer success doing the day-to-day, helping you improve Showpad as well. But today we're going to focus on monitor and optimize. I'm actually going to hand it over to Celine to cover the monitor part.
Thanks, Fred. Cool. So I promise you I won't sing in this session. There is a show party tomorrow, though, so I can't make any promises for that. But let's talk about monitoring first. So monitoring is key, right? I mean, we all know that information is key and it equals power and leverage. But in order to get that information, what you need to do is you need to measure and monitor. And so the obvious question is, okay, well, what am I measuring, right? Like, what is my baseline even? And then what's the goal? And so all logic questions, but first you need to ask yourself another question, and you need to take a step back and basically think about why we're here. Like, why are you here? To equip sales for every conversation. To ease the distribution of marketing collateral. As simple as that. To save time. To increase sales productivity. To give a boost to sales. Really make them more productive, make them better in the field. To increase the win rate, right? Like to make sure that you win that deal when you're against a competitor or when it's in the last days of the quarter. To enhance customer experience, right? We've talked a lot about it today, but it really is about what your customers are feeling whenever they are being sold to by you guys. Like, are they learning? Are they actually seeing value of what you're selling? And a lot of the times we hear as well, like, to enable storytelling. It's not about just selling your product. It's about selling a story. It's about really engaging people on that journey. And so, I mean, I can go on and on. Like, this is a long list of why companies invest in Showpad. And ultimately, it comes down to increasing revenue and then decreasing costs, right? I think that's what everybody ultimately wants to achieve. And so whilst that all is fine, I mean, what you want to ask yourself is basically whether, first of all, you know exactly what the goal is, right? Maybe you've been tasked on like managing Showpad, but what is the ultimate goal? Why has this been brought into the company? And do all stakeholders that you work with know what is the ultimate goal that you want to achieve? I mean, if you're in marketing, does the sales team know why they should be using this new tool? Does IT know why they're being asked to help with deployment? It's quite crucial, because if not everybody knows why you're doing this and what the overall goal is and why it should be good for the company, then you can basically measure all you like, but it's not going to make any difference. And so question to you guys, like by show of hands, who feels 100% everybody in the team that you're working with, all stakeholders on this project are aligned and know why you're basically implementing Showpad or using Showpad? Show of hands who's 100% convinced that's the case. A very brave gentleman in the front. Just a slight hesitation. Who feels, no, not at all? I feel like sometimes I'm just me, and I need to convince why we're doing this. Okay, cool. We're here to help, all right? I mean, this guy has it fairly easy. If everybody knows why why your company has brought in Showpad, then it's fairly easy, right? Then everybody is convinced that Showpad is going to help have an impact on the business, which it will. And then all you need to do is basically increase usage, right? Because an increased usage of Showpad basically equals a greater business impact. So that's fairly easy. But for all the rest of you, there's a bit more work to do, right? And so today I want to go through a bit more of the theory, and obviously there's going to be a lot more in-depth sessions this afternoon. And I mean, I have an amazing team who will help you do this exercise for you. But typically, when implementing or when rolling out a solution like Showpad, you're going to go through different phases. And so in a first phase, basically, I mean, the overall idea is that in every phase, you're going to measure different elements. You don't have to go all in and just say, like, hey, I helped save this company, 500,000 in printing costs just in 1 year, right? That's not how you go into a project like this. There's steps to take, and there's little successes along the way that you can actually get from this. And so a first phase is where you basically kick it off and where you will see some early adopters, right? The guys who really enjoy working with new technology. And you will get some really good feedback from them, some initial excitement or some confusion. And you'll see, okay, well, what's usage like? Are people actually logging in? Are they adopting this tool? And so set that as your metric, right? Don't just go in and set like a massive target there. No, just see, okay, is this being adopted? The second phase is basically where you're going to be expanding a little bit more. And you're going to really start seeing like champions, right? The ones that, and I guess everybody knows those salespeople who really love new technologies and who really want to just become better and know that this is going to help them do it. And so really get from these champions some more in-depth feedback, like what really matters. Is the structure okay? What kind of content should I get on there? And then you're going to start seeing a little bit more trends, right? This is where you want to see trends. And again, not just some random number, but you want to see an increase, right? Are people using it more? Have people dropped off? Why? In a third phase, basically what you want to do is you want to keep them engaged, right? Salespeople get bored very easily. So you want to keep them engaged, keep them providing updates, and really make sure it's useful for them to continue to come back and use it. And at this point, this is where you want to see and start measuring some sort of consistency in usage. This is where you're going to start looking at metrics like, say, for example, MAU, so monthly average users, and you're going to get some feedback on, hey, I've been using this tool for a long time. You know what would be really cool if we could do that? So this is what you want to start measuring right there. And all of these are what we call leading indicators, right? They're all elements that basically will guide you to ultimately measuring that business impact, right? And this is where you're going to start measuring the metrics that we discussed before. So all the ones that were on the slide, and ultimately the increase in revenue and the decrease in costs. And again, this is a theory, right? But I hope it kind of sparks some ideas on how you want to think about measuring and how you want to set those goals. And another important one when thinking about measuring and monitoring is setting that baseline. And that's a tricky one, because a lot of companies actually come to us and they ask us, okay, well, what should I aim for? What's industry standard, right? It's like typically one of the questions we get. And, we can put a number on a slide, yes, but is it really going to make sense? And so again, when setting a baseline of what success looks like, you want to ask yourself a couple of questions. The first one, and I'm going to come back to this again and again, is like what you want to achieve, right? If the initial goal is to actually increase sales productivity, you're going to want to measure different things in that first phase than when it's about, saving time for marketing, right? So think about, again, what do you want to achieve and what makes sense for an initial metric. Are we measuring anything right now? A lot of the times when we actually ask that question, when somebody has said, I want to have 80% MAU. Okay, but do you know how many times your sales is actually using your content today? How many times they're going to Drive, to SharePoint to get the information? No, right? So does it make sense then to just put out a random number? No. You want to start seeing, okay, what can we see in terms of usage initially, and what is the trend? And once you start seeing a bit of consistency, that's when this number is going to make a lot more sense. Another one that's really important is what behavior can we expect? And this has to do with how you guys sell, right? Like how many times does a sales rep actually have a meeting with a customer on site a week, right? How many times do you expect somebody to go into Showpad and prepare for a meeting or actually have a full-on presentation in front of a customer? Again, think about those metrics before just putting a number out there. It really is all about what makes sense for you guys, not just industry standard. That's something for later on, but something that makes sense for right now. And a last one as well, and that's also quite an interesting one, is what are you doing to help achieve this goal? Because it's easy enough, it was on the slide earlier, okay, we're going to enable storytelling, all right? And we're definitely going to help your sales rep to do a hell of a job on storytelling, but you're going to have to train them, right? You're going to have to help them with a script. You're going to have to give them a structure that makes sense. And so really, it's not just about setting the goal out there, it's really about thinking, okay, what can we do, what can I do, and what can all the stakeholders do? So I know this is a lot of questions, but it really is an exercise that you need to go through and that you want to do before you start measuring or monitoring anything. Because I hope it made sense now that like if you're measuring just anything, you can't, it's not going to make any difference. So really think about what it is that you want to do. Because once you get to all that good stuff, once you get that information, that's when actually the fun starts, right? And that's when you can start optimizing. And optimizing, I'm going to hand it over to Fred, who's going to tell you a lot more about that.
Thanks. So 4 more slides, and then there's coffee. So just bear with me. So monitoring, really important. You get that baseline, you can prove that Showpad has impact, so you can actually go back and get your ice cream, meaning that you want to do more with Showpad, maybe get more budget, get more people, resources, and so on. So what can we do with the newfound budget that we have? So what I want to put out is maybe a simple framework. Not all the answers are on there, but I encourage you to talk to people that actually have been running Showpad for a longer time, because they have ideas around this. Next session is interesting as well, talking about adoption. So there's some common themes in there, so learn from each other. I'm just giving you a kind of a framework to think about this, okay? So if we talk about optimize, there's actually 3 axes where you can optimize Showpad, really simple, 3 Ps. First one is people. How can you optimize and focus on people? So can we increase the impact of Showpad by doing things not to people, but with people? Second one is process. Actually, have you thought about how Showpad fits in there? Is it a siloed solution, or is there actually a process where you actually utilize Showpad as part of that process? And last one is product. So actually, I'm going to go back to Louis' talk there. So technology is important as well. So how can we leverage what Showpad as a company is doing, fit that to your roadmap in terms of sales enablement? So let's go to people first. First one, training. So Louis talked about it already, but you can actually already start with that. So implement a let's say, training cadence with salespeople, also with marketeers. When you're early in the maturity scale, it's going to be ad hoc. Maybe you train people once, and then off they go, and see where they end up. I think the most successful Showpad implementations have a cadence, have a work with our customer success team to actually have a recurring model there. And training actually leads to effective adoption. So we can talk about high adoption, but effective adoption is much better, because you want your sales rep to focus on the features that have most impact. So you can have, let's say, thousands of daily users, but if they don't use it in the right way, it doesn't have the same impact. So we need to focus on that through training as well. Then, third one, using one-to-ones. So for sales managers, they can actually look at the analytics that that individual salesperson has. Is he using Showpad enough? Because maybe of compliance reasons, maybe there's new product ranges coming out, and he or she is not using Showpad in the right way. You can actually then discuss that in their one-to-ones. Then last one is obvious, increase the reach in terms of people. So meaning, if, let's say, you have one business unit utilizing Showpad, you've proven the value and the impact of Showpad, why not increase the reach of people? So let's say you have X amount of salespeople there, and there's maybe other people there. Why not tell the story on how that can impact the rest of the organization as well? Next one, process. Again, 4 things. You can see that Showpad is moving, or we're investing a lot into becoming more of a platform, sales enablement platform, instead of just a iPad app. So one thing that we need to think about is content creation. So the flow that we used to have, that might just be creating PDFs, data sheets, PowerPoints, and so on, do actually take Showpad into account? Yes or no? Because if you're doing the same old things that you were doing before, but now you have new technology available, you're not utilizing it to the full extent. So think about that. In the same space, working with agencies. If you have an agency of records, have they been briefed that you actually have Showpad in your toolbox? Do they know about experiences, the advanced ones, and then the new ones as well? Do they know that we have channels, folders, smart folders, and so on? Do they know the power of that as well? So working with agencies, really important to get them on the Showpad train as well. Third one, content strategy. Analytics, really important. You can see that Lou has put a big effort and a big team on analytics, so we want to provide you with more insights. But do you actually use those insights in your content strategy? Yes or no? So again, things to think about. And last one is communication. So how do you communicate with your salespeople? Is there a process? Do you still use email? Maybe the improved announcements in Showpad might be a better way to do that as well. So again, things to think about, and again, talk amongst each other. Last one, product. That's the easiest one because that's the part that we own. But what we need to do is map that on your process as well, because we can probably come out with the best features ever. If none of our customers is using it or actually can adapt it into their own roadmap, we're not being successful. So the first one, and again, Louis talked about this, is integrations. So Showpad's siloed, or could we increase the reach of Showpad through marketing automation, really increasing that unified customer profile, combining online knowledge, offline knowledge, and so on. So that could be one way to increase the impact of Showpad through integrations. Second one, automation, closely related to integration, but looking at how you publish content right now. So if you publish content in a CMS, in a DAM, can you actually push that to Showpad so you don't have to do it twice? So that means if you can automate it, half of the time that you're spending on uploading it twice, you can actually do other stuff. Again, increasing that impact of Showpad. Then the third one is increasing the reach. We've talked about this in terms of people, but this is in terms of use cases. So training will become a big one. Could also be that you have an inside sales team that you can actually deploy Showpad to, or maybe distributors that you can launch Showpad to as well. So think about that. The last one, obviously really important, is new product features. So experiences, we have the experience applications as well. So think about what's your next step with Showpad. Is it maybe focusing on the content? Is it focusing on people, process, product? So a couple of things to think about. If you have any questions, talk to any of the Showpad people. Grab me by the jacket. Apparently that's allowed here. So grab me by the jacket, talk to us, talk to Celine as well. So coming back to our earlier question, do we need to do more? You know my answer. I hope you see it too as well now. So yes, do more. And there's one more thing that I want to add. Will help you. So Showpad's customer success team is here to help you. Talk to us if you have any questions. There's a big 1,060 customers, so we have also a big network of other customers that actually have done some of these things, have had these struggles and solved them, so we can actually bring you together as well. So if you have any questions, reach out and we'll help you. Thank you very much.